You're watching our 24 News World News program, and up next are tonight's top stories. In a major move for its economy, Algeria is now tapping into its massive Garj iron mine. President Tebboune oversaw the launch in Bechar and greeted by an enthusiastic public reception. Also coming up in our news tonight, ceasefire violations continue in Gaza with reported casualties. While the Rafah crossing has reopened, aid remains barred. Hamas states any obstacle at the crossing breaks the truce. And later on, tensions spike as Iran issues major warnings. Khamenei warns a U.S. attack will spark a regional war, while President Trump says Tehran is now in serious talks. In a new escalation, Iran has declared European armies terrorist organizations. Welcome back. First off in our news tonight, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune officially inaugurated the new Garj-Tindouf-Bechar railway line on Sunday, one of the largest strategic projects in the history of Algeria. President Tebboune welcomed at the Bechar station in western Algeria the first passenger train arriving from Tindouf. The president spoke with several passengers arriving on the inaugural train of the Western Mining Line. The Algerian president also oversaw the ceremony of the reception of the freight train carrying the first shipment of iron ore from the Garj mine to Iran. On this occasion, President Tebboune greeted the workers of the National Railway Transport Company and those who contributed to the completion of this strategic project, and took a family photo later with a number of workers and executives from the construction companies. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune was granted a warm and enthusiastic welcome from the citizens of Bechar province. Citizens lined the main street adjacent to Bechar train station, expressing their warm welcome and gratitude to President Tebboune, who reciprocated in a strong show of the deep popular support for the development achievements and the appreciation of the progress made, as well as the integration of southern regions with the National Economic Decision-Making Center. Meanwhile, President Abdelmadjid Tebboune watched the documentary about the strategic project of the Western Mining Railway Line, Garj-Tindouf-Bechar. Following a presentation by the Algerian Minister of Public Work on the strategic project, President Tebboune delivered a brief speech at the train station in Bechar. President of the Republic had previously arrived at the Boudrine Ben Ali Lutfi Airport in Bechar province, accompanied by the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army General Said Chengriha, to supervise the ceremony of the official launch of the Western Mining Line. During the inauguration of the strategic mega project, President Tebboune said the launch of the Western Mining Railway marks the first phase of the major national initiative. He added it will transform southern Algeria and drive economic growth by tapping the country's rich resources.
حضورنا اليوم لتدشين خط السكة الحديدية المنجمي الغربي كمرحلة أولى، وأؤكد أنها مرحلة أولى من مراحل مشروع وطني مهيكل سيغير إن شاء الله على المدى القريب وجه المنطقة هنا في هذه الامتداد العزيز من جنوبنا الكبير. ويساهم في تكريس أهداف توجهاتنا الاقتصادية الوطنية نحو استغلال ثرواتنا المتعددة في جارج بيلات، بالإضافة إلى إطلاق منجم الزنك والرصاص بوادي ميزور في بجاية، ومشروع السكة الحديدية المنجمي ببلاد الحدبة والرصيف المنجمي لعنابة في إطار توسعته.
President Tebboune said the project reflects a strategic vision to develop Algeria's natural resources, connect the southern region to the rest of the country, and reduce reliance on hydrocarbons and boosting domestic capabilities.
نشهد اليوم لحظة انتصار تاريخي على طريق التحدي التنموي الذي خضناه بثقة وقناعة هنا في عمق صحرائنا الغالية والخالدة. إنها لحظة نقف فيها على خطوة من خطوات التجسيد العملي لإنجاز وطني استراتيجي تاريخي لتحقيق الأهداف المنشودة في الجزائر السيدة الأبية والمنتصرة التي تتقدم بجدارة لبلوغ تلك الأهداف، وأساسها التحرر من قبضة المحروقات والاعتماد على قدراتنا الذاتية.
The president said turning the railway from a distant dream into reality is inspired by the legacy of the martyrs, whose message fuels Algeria's drive for development.
وإننا والحمد لله واستلهاما من تلك الروح الوطنية الدافعة التي حركت ضمائر أسلافنا وأمدتهم بالبأس والقوة لمواجهة وتحدي الاستعمار الغاصب، وما أعظمه من تحد، إنها روح التحدي لشهدائنا الأبرار العظماء طيب الله ثراهم. واستلهاما من تلك الروح آمنا بأنه على قدر أهل العزم تأتي العزائم، وأن لمن صنعوا أمجاد الأمس وورث تجري في عروقهم دماء الوفاء للجزائر ولرسالتهم الخالدة، وهو ورث قادر على تحقيق النصر في معركة التنمية الفاصلة بين التخلف والتقدم.
On Saturday evening, a ministerial delegation inaugurated the new railway station in Tindouf and launched the first passenger train linked the province to Bechar along the 950-kilometer western mining railway line. Interior local authorities and Transport Minister Said Sayud said the launch is part of an integrated national project initiated by President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. He noted that the president personally oversaw its implementation, particularly the development of the Garj Bilat mine and the completion of the Western Mining Railway, describing it as a major project aimed at boosting economic and social development.
We are at the Tindouf train station, the train station of the province of Tindouf. Just minutes ago, the go-ahead was given to the first passenger train from Tindouf to Bechar and from Bechar to Oran. What we can say is that this project was initiated and overseen by the President of the Republic. He also monitored and ensured its completion, including the Garaj Bilat mine. This mega project, which entered into operation, including the mining line and the mine itself, was carried out using 100% Algerian resources. We haven't resorted to indebtment or anything like that. It was carried out by Algerian companies, Algerian executives, and Algerian workers.
Citizens of Tindouf province hailed the launch of the railway line, saying it will contribute to the socio-economic development of the province.
We commend, as residents of the province of Tindouf, the tremendous efforts deployed by the Algerian state in connecting the northern provinces with the westernmost point of Algeria, which is the province of Tindouf. This is the ambition of the residents of the province of Tindouf in terms of strategic and sovereign projects, to which the state, headed by the President of the Republic, grants a great importance.
اليوم كان حدث عظيم وكان حلم شكك فيه العديد.
Today witnessed a significant event, a great dream that many doubted could be realized. However, thanks to the political will and determination of the Algerian people and the wisdom of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the dream has been fulfilled. Praise be to Allah.
تحقق الحلم والحمد لله.
And now for a deeper dive into numbers, here's a 5-minute data breakdown from Yasin Irkti.
Hello dear viewers, I'm going to take you through important numbers and statistics quickly on what Algeria is betting on for economic revival. So the country just turned a giant iron deposit into production, and a brand new 950 kilometers rail spine is what turns that ore into real value. So let me walk you through the numbers. Garage Billet holds about 3.5 billion tons of iron ore in the ground. Of that, roughly 1.7 to 2 billion tons are currently considered economically exploitable. The operation kicked off limited extractions in 2022, while talking about a couple of million tons a year to start. And that was the proof of concept. The ore is there, and it can be mined. When processing plants and full logistics are in place, production is expected to leap. The target range is 40 to 50 million tons a year at full capacity. That's the scale that changes Algeria's role from a raw materials seller to a major industrial supplier. And believe me, this is not incremental, it's transformational. So here's the practical bit. A mine this big needs a transport backbone. The western mining line stretches roughly through 950 kilometers and is designed to carry 50 million metric tons per year of raw ore, plus about 25 million metric tons per year of processed material from nearby conversion units. In plain, the rail line is what makes mass production and exports possible. Without it, hauling tens of millions of tons just doesn't add up. So technically, we are also talking about heavy engineering across the desert. This is to say over 1,400 technical structures, dozens of bridges, including a multi-kilometer bridge across Wadi Dura and a massive earthworks. About 75 million cubic meters of material were moved during construction. And the line includes passenger stations and technical junctions, which means it's built to last and serve regions beyond mining alone. So what does that mean on the cash side? So conservative estimates suggest exports of roughly 30 million metric tons per year could bring about $3.9 billion. The project should also slash Algeria's import bill for raw materials. Numbers point to about $2 billion saved annually once local processing meet domestic demand. And if production and processing reach peak levels, some forecasts push gross annual returns significantly higher. But that's not all. There is also a social payoff. So construction and operation create thousands of jobs in building, running processing plants and logistics, and give a big boost to remote southern regions. Crucially, building domestic processing raises value added inside Algeria instead of shipping raw ore away. That's jobs, factories, and supply chains staying locally. But no project this size is a headache, nor risk-free. Technical hurdles include processing ore that's high in phosphorus, that requires advanced treatment units, adding desert logistics, water, and power needs, and the long-term maintenance of heavy infrastructure. However, the good news is the plan already includes treatment facilities and logistics upgrades designed to tackle these exact problems. So, and that's not quite all there. So there is also an international angle worth flagging too. Algeria is talking with regional partners and overseas firms about joint processing, technology transfer and export arrangements that brings foreign technical know-how to local sites, and it helps finance conversion plans and locks in long-term buyers for processed iron rather than raw ore. So to put it simply, partnerships mean better prices, more local smelting, and a steadier path from mine to the market. Timelines will stagger rail capacity and plans scale up together. So the full payoff comes in stages. The bottom line is Garage Bilat, which gives Algeria huge mineral potential. The Western Mining Line is the transport backbone that turns that potential into jobs, exports and local industry. So together they shift the country towards stronger economic sovereignty, not just selling raw resources, but building the business around them. So that's all from me, guys. Thank you for following.
And now we go live to our special envoy on the ground, Hussam Burkan. Hussam, walk us through, please. What are the latest updates where you are right now?
Thank you so much, Islam. Thank you so much. So basically, we witnessed history today, Islam, because, you know, to see the president himself arriving in the Bechar airport and coming personally to launch one of the most awaited mega projects, probably in the modern history of Algeria, you know, the Garage Bilat mining ore, is a historical day. So basically the president started this visit by watching a documentary about all the details of the project, you know, the statistics and all the details of the project, you know, the Algerian workers, men and women that have been making a lot of sacrifices in the last couple of years. You know, that this project, you know, building a railway of 950 kilometers in less than 2 years, to be more precise, in 20 months, is something that we've never seen in the African continent, which is also something that the president greeted and emphasized on. After that, you know, the president went directly to the railway station where he received the very first passengers coming from Tindouf to Bechar. And if I could paint the picture, it was really beautiful picture of a family, the Algerian family, seeing the president, you know, interacting with all the passengers. And as I told you, if we could paint it, there were a lot of people, a lot of crowded people witnessing this, taking pictures, making a lot of videos, and, you know, the whole pictures felt like family and the emotions. And we could see even the workers that the president himself greeted, and there are even some workers with tears in their eyes, because, as I said, they've been making a lot of sacrifices, because, you know, they've been working day and night non-stop to make this historical project a reality. And without forgetting how difficult, you know, the desert is, the harsh reality was really, really difficult, very challenging for them. But even though with all these challenges, they made it a reality. And today, the president himself announced the launching of the Garage Bilat mining ore himself, and with all the Algerians. And not only this, but he oversaw the arrival of the very first wave of, you know, the raw material that come directly from Garage Bilat, Tindouf to Bechar, and also the launching of this wave to go directly to Iran to be, of course, processed, and then you know, this material is going to be consumed locally. Probably the rest is going to be exported abroad. So really historical, beautiful moment that the president and the people painted. After that, the president went, you know, to the Bechar Center, and oh my gosh, like the beautiful image of how the people received the president with fireworks, with, you know, traditional music and folkloric dances. You know, it felt like a living tapestry of Algeria, you know, the diversity of Algeria from all regions, you know, receiving the president. It was beautiful, beautiful to see. And of course, this diversity is what make Algeria beautiful. And we could see like all the kinds of music, dancing, and the cultures together coming to celebrate this beautiful project. It was literally very beautiful to see. It was a historical day. Just wanted also to emphasize on a very important thing, that this project is not an isolated project, but it's, you know, part of a conglomerate of opportunities, jobs, mining, transport, and a whole regional vision vision that is taking place, and it's something that we should emphasize on. It's not only in this region of the southwest of Algeria, but the president himself in his speech, he emphasized on the fact that this is literally a project that is part of a bigger image, a bigger vision that the president himself is overseeing and is making sure that it's becoming a reality in all the regions of Algeria. So just to summarize, the whole visit was historical. It announces the launching of a historical mega project that is literally a game changer. It's taking Algeria internationally as a very, very important player in the international arena, in the economic arena, and in the mining arena, and it's literally a new chapter in the history of Algeria.
Thank you, Hussam. You joined us live from Bechar. Now we move on to a similar note. A new nearly 1,000-kilometer railway in Western Algeria is about more than a move in minerals. It's about moving the entire nation into a position of power in Africa. The strategic corridor is designed to make Algerian exports the competitive choice for hundreds of millions of consumers south of the Sahara. Salman Seb has more.
The Western Railway, linking Bechar ibn Abbas and Tindouf to Garage Billet, over 950 kilometers, isn't just about mining. It's really about strategy. This line creates a continental corridor that connects Algeria's production chains directly to fast-growing markets south of the Sahara. It also reshapes the logistics of the Tindouf-Zouirat-Nouakchott triangle, turning free trade zones into real industrial hubs and giving Algerian exports a smoother entry into Western African markets with over 350 million consumers.
The Western Railway line has been brought into operation. It connects Tindouf to the national railway network, effectively linking the city directly to Algerian industrial centers. This project has enabled Tindouf to become an export hub, whether through the railway line itself or through the free zone that has been established in the city. As a result, the railway represents added value in turning the free zone into a dynamic space that contributes to the development of this border region and strengthens its connections to the Tindouf-Zouirat corridor and onward to the industrial sites. This connection will also help link the national economy to West African markets, which include a population of around 350 million people.
More importantly, the project reflects how Algeria sees its economic role. Instead of short-term commercial gains, the focus is on building long-term structural partnerships. In that sense, Tindouf moves from being a remote border area to a strategic platform for moving Algerian production across the continent.
This line can play a secondary role in transporting goods, as it would carry raw materials to the north and bring manufactured products from northern factories to West Africa. This would add significant economic value by reducing the overall operating costs of the line. It would also allow movement in both directions, whether northbound or southbound, which would have a major impact on commodity prices and help goods reach markets at competitive prices.
By cutting transport costs, the railway makes Algerian products more competitive and better positions on price, strengthening the reputation of the Algerian label internationally. And beyond transport, it helps secure control over national resources, placing Algeria at the center of a new regional dynamic where it acts not just as a supplier, but as a key geo-economic player with real logistical influence in Africa.
Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune received congratulations from Chinese President Xi Jinping after the successful launch of Alsat-3 satellite. The Algerian presidency said President Xi described the project as a new milestone in China-Algeria space cooperation, building on Alsat-1 and reflecting the strength of their strategic partnership. He also reaffirmed China's readiness to deepen cooperation with Algeria in space, science and technology.
Your Excellency, I have the honor to extend my warmest congratulations and best wishes to the Algerian government and people, on behalf of the Chinese government and people, on the successful launch of the ALSAT-3 satellite. The ALSAT-3 satellite project symbolizes a new successful cooperation between the Chinese and Algerian sides in the space field, following the ALSAT-1 satellite project, and constitutes an important embodiment of the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. The Chinese side stands ready to work with the Algerian side to further deepen cooperation in the field of space and to deploy joint efforts to enhance the level of science and technology, thereby promoting the economic and social development of both countries.
And in the Gaza file tonight, at least 2 Palestinians were killed and others wounded early Sunday after Zionist airstrike targeted displaced people in central and southern Gaza. Zionist military vehicles also opened heavy fire on eastern areas of Al-Burij refugee camp, while explosive-laden robots were detonated in the eastern and northern parts of Gaza City. The European Union mission overseeing the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt announced a limited reopening on Sunday for Palestinians in both directions as the Zionist occupation continues to block the entry of 8 trucks. A mission delegation arrived early to oversee final preparations for the trial reopening. The crossing is set to officially reopen on Monday for the movement of individuals after being fully closed by the occupation since May 2024. Gaza's Ministry of Health says around 6,000 patients and wounded urgently need medical evacuations for treatment abroad, a rate of about 500 people a day. In a statement on Sunday, the ministry warned that severe shortages of medical supplies and medicines are worsening conditions in hospitals, adding that current evacuation mechanisms are insufficient to save thousands of critical cases. Hamas warned that any restrictions imposed by the Zionist occupation at the Rafah crossing would violate the ceasefire agreement. Speaking on Sunday, Hamas spokesperson Hazem Qasem called on mediators and guarantor states to monitor the occupation's actions at Rafah and prevent a new siege on Gaza. The crossing was reopened on a trial basis with a full reopening for passenger movement expected on Monday.
The continued closure of the Rafah crossing represents a serious injustice to Palestinians in Gaza. This crossing should have been opened from the very start of the ceasefire, as delaying it only deepens the humanitarian crisis and prolongs collective punishment, conditioning its opening on additional political or security demands, such as the delivery of human remains, unfairly ties the fundamental rights of an entire civilian population to issues unrelated to the basic freedoms. Under international law and universally recognized human rights charters, the people of Gaza have an inherent right to freedom of movement into and out of their own land. Denying this right is neither lawful nor moral, and it undermines any genuine effort toward de-escalation, stability, and human dignity.
Hamas said its commitment to the ceasefire is conditional on the Zionist occupation's full compliance and an end to the ongoing aggression against the Strip. In a statement on Saturday, Hamas leader in Gaza, Khalil al-Hayya, said the movement has held intensive contacts with mediators and international parties, rejecting continued aggression under false pretexts. He warned that continued crimes, massacres, and violations of the ceasefire would have serious consequences.
Dr. Khalil al-Hayya, head of the movement in Gaza, warned during his communications with mediators and international parties about the consequences and the repercussions of the crimes and massacres that the occupation commit almost daily in the Gaza Strip, as well as the blatant violations of the ceasefire agreement. He emphasized that the resistance commitments to and the respect for the agreement requires holding the occupation accountable and preventing it from continuing its crimes.
AFP reports that the Zionist occupation has ordered Doctors Without Borders to halt its activities in Gaza by February 28. The move comes as Gaza's health system nears total collapse, with severe shortages across all sectors. MSF previously refused to hand over staff names, citing concerns over safety and its operational independence. And as you followed in our headlines, tensions are spiking in the Middle East, with Iran and the West exchanging serious threats. Iran's supreme leader warns an attack will trigger a full-scale regional war. And in a new move, Tehran has declared European armies to be terrorist organizations. More on this story with Nabil Khazini this time.
Tensions are once again rising between Washington and Tehran, with the risk of a wider regional confrontation hanging in the air. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei warned that any U.S. attack on Iran would not remain limited, saying it would ignite a broader regional conflict. He dismissed American military threats, insisting the Iranian people would not be intimidated by warships or pressure. Khamenei stressed that Iran does not seek war and has no intention of initiating an attack, but warned that any aggression would be met with what he called a strong and decisive response.
This person constantly claims they've brought warships, but the Iranian nation shall not be intimidated by these things. The Iranian people will not be stirred by these threats. They do not fear a fair confrontation. We're not the initiators and do not want to attack any country, but the Iranian nation will strike a strong blow against anyone who attacks and harasses them.
The warning comes as the United States increases its military footprint in the Middle East. The U.S. Navy now has an aircraft carrier, multiple destroyers, and combat ships deployed across the region, following repeated threats by President Donald Trump over Iran's nuclear program and internal unrest. President Trump laid down Tehran's warnings, expressing hope for a deal, but leaving the door open to confrontation if diplomacy fails.
We have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, a couple of days, and hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right.
For now, diplomacy remains possible, but the region is clearly on edge, watching, waiting and bracing for what comes next.
Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani met with Iran's Supreme National Security Council Secretary Ali Larijani in Tehran. The Qatari Foreign Ministry said Saturday that the talks focused on regional de-escalation, with Doha reaffirming its support for efforts to reduce tensions and promote security and stability. Switching focus to the war in Sudan, the emergency room in Al-Fashir condemned the Rapid Support Forces attack on a commercial convoy between Khartoum and Farouk, which killed 4 people, including a woman. In a Sunday Facebook post, the group called on the international human rights and humanitarian organizations to protect civilians, infrastructure, and property in Al-Fashir amid the forces' push to expand control over many areas in North Darfur. The Sudanese army says its forces bypassed 8 RSF checkpoints and rugged terrain in eastern and southern Kordofan in just 6 hours. Speaking to All 24 News TV on Sunday, Ali Bechar Hamdin of the Sudan Liberation Movement, allied with the army, said troops crossed difficult areas from Al Abbasiyah through Badlami and Habila to Delang in a short period. Elsewhere in Africa, the Moroccan Association for Human Rights called for Qasr al-Kibir to be declared a disaster zone or for flood victims to receive immediate, fair and transparent compensation. In a Saturday statement, the group held the Makhzen authorities fully responsible for failing to manage the risks and protect citizens' lives and property.
The right to physical safety, adequate housing, a healthy environment, and decent and safe working conditions are fundamental and inalienable rights that cannot be sacrificed under any circumstances in the name of continued production or economic interest. Therefore, a sustainable preventive approach must be adopted that places the safety and right of the population at the heart of public policies to prevent the recurrence of such incident.
Looking Eastern Europe now, a Russian drone strike on a bus in Ukraine's Dnipro-Petrovsk region killed 15 people and wounded 7 others, Ukrainian media reported on Sunday. The bus was carrying workers returning from a mining facility. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry said its forces captured 2 towns in eastern Ukraine, claiming losses on Ukrainian troops and equipment. On the diplomatic front, the United States said it held constructive talks with Russia as part of its efforts to mediate peace in Ukraine. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff posted on X platform on Saturday that his meeting with Russian Special Envoy Kirill Dmitriev in Florida was productive, aimed at advancing a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accused Russia of trying to disrupt supplies and communications by ramping up drone, bomb and missile attacks. He said Moscow launched over 980 attack drones, nearly 1,100 guided bombs and 2 missiles last week, forcing Ukraine to defend its airspace. Zelensky also announced a new round of trilateral talks set for February 4 and 5. Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev said European powers have failed and cannot achieve a strategic defeat of Russia and Ukraine. In a Sunday interview, he added that Europe is harming its own foundations, causing significant economic damage in its attempts to challenge Russia in the war.
Prices are rising, inflation is rising, and there are numerous problems. All of this is being done to spite Russia, and on the other hand, to show more sort of solidarity with Ukraine. They have achieved nothing. The situation is only getting worse. They initially understood that harming themselves, not Russia, but themselves, was pointless.
Russia reaffirmed its rejection of deploying foreign troops in Ukraine. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko told Sputnik on Sunday that Moscow would not accept European forces as a security guarantee for Kiev and a ceasefire, and reiterated its opposition to Ukraine joining NATO.
We have declared this, the presence of European troops as a security guarantee for Kyiv in the event of a ceasefire agreement is unacceptable. Neither NATO membership nor the presence of any foreign troops is acceptable. It makes no difference whether a French corporal wears a hat with NATO or EU written on it. The essence of the matter remains unchanged, and therefore we have not divided from our position.
To another global news story, U.S. President Donald Trump revealed Sunday that India will purchase oil from Venezuela, not Iran. He also called on China to make a similar deal to acquire oil from Venezuela, which the U.S. now controls following the arrest of President Nicolas Maduro earlier this month.
I don't know anything about that, but I'll tell you what, China is welcome to come in and would make a great deal in oil. You know, we welcome China. We've already made a deal. India's coming in, and they're going to be buying Venezuelan oil as opposed to buying it from Iran. So we've already made that deal, the concept of the deal. But China's welcome to come in and buy oil.
President Donald Trump announced Sunday that the United States has begun negotiating with European leaders over Greenland. He stated the deal is nearly complete, calling the territory vital to U.S. national security and claiming an agreement would benefit everyone, including Europe.
Are you talking about on Greenland? Yes. On Greenland? Yeah. We have started a negotiation, and I think it's pretty well agreed to. I mean, they want us to do it. I think it's going to be a good deal for everybody. Very important deal. Actually, from a national security point of view, very, very important deal. I think we're going to make a deal.
Additionally, President Trump is threatening a strong response if Canada moves forward with a trade deal with China. In a statement Saturday, he warned any such agreement would be a Chinese takeover of Canada. This comes after his threat last week to impose 100% tariffs on Ottawa if it proceeds.
If they do a deal with China, yeah, we'll do something very substantial. Because we can look, I have a great relationship with China, President Xi, but we don't want China to take over Canada. And if they make the deal that he's looking to make, China will take over Canada. And the first thing they're going to do, end ice hockey.
That's the end of our news program. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.